Hi, welcome to BariNation, where we support the bariatric community with humor, humility, and honesty.
You've just tuned into a podcast that welcomes you into a community, a resource center, and a safe place that powers your journey towards personal wellness.
Our goal is you leave us today feeling hopeful, inspired, and ready to live your best bariatric life.
Hey friends, it's April. Today's conversation is with our friend and BariNation expert, Melanie Lindell. Melanie has always been a person who moves, but she has just noticed some things as she has aged. Her bariatric surgeon recently encouraged her to kind of broaden her horizons and think differently about the ways in which she moves. And today's conversation is about exactly that. Well, we set out to have a 10-minute conversation and we ended up talking for 60 entire minutes. So today you're going to hear the first 10 minutes of this extremely powerful movement episode. If you would like to watch or listen to the full 60 minutes, you can find it in the BariNation membership community. Head to barination.mn.co to join today and get access to not only this complete full bonus episode, but all of the ones in our catalog. All right, let's dive into this awesome episode. Hey, BariNation, welcome back to the podcast. Today, we have the honor of reconnecting with our friend and BariNation expert, Melanie Lindell. Hi, Melanie.
Hi.
Today's conversation is really about how we pivot our movement journey, either because of age or circumstance. We all know that, right, as the disease progresses, so does our life. Age and things happen that maybe require us to look at movement a different way and to start moving our bodies in different ways. And we know that you have recently kind of gone through one of these pivots, and we're excited to learn how you did it and what inspired you to make that pivot.
Well, I think first of all, it wasn't my idea. and I think that's part of it is sometimes the information comes to you and you have to figure out, what do I do with that? So back in August, I was at my 5-year follow-up appointment with my surgeon. And, he started off with a compliment saying, you have one of the best fitnesses of, any of my patients in 15 years. And now we need to talk about your age. And I was like, hey, and I didn't know where he was going with that. And he said, I know how much you love to move. And I'm also aware that your knees, eventually you're going to hear from your orthopedic that you're going to need bilateral knee replacement. And my concern for you is that at some point, just like if someone retires without a plan, that it could drop you into a depression. And so the idea of onboarding before it's a crisis, is the best way to do it. And so he says, so what do you think about swimming? And I thought, well, I like the water and I'm a scuba diver and I do tubing and water skiing. I said, but I was trying to kind of present my case. This isn't a good idea, and I said, well, I don't know how to breathe with my face in the water. And he looked at me and he goes, well, that can be taught. My daughter's doing that right now. And I'm like, yeah, she's like 10. I don't know how old his daughter is, but I know she's young. And so, but he got in my head enough to go, like, I know he's right. And I've had 5 knee surgeries on my right knee. I've had 1 on my left. I've got pins and screws and wires. Like if you get an x-ray of my right knee, it looks like Home Depot. So I know he's telling me the truth. And then I think part of it was sitting with the truth long enough to go, he's right. And what if, something happens sooner than, and so he's like, the best time is to do it before it's a problem. Right. And so I thought, okay, well, he's done so much for my life. I trust him immensely, and all that. I'll at least give a nod in this direction. So I wrote the Bainbridge Aquatics, center here on the island where I live, and just said, hey, here's my situation. Do you have anybody? I was just thinking like private lessons. I didn't know. And they wrote me and said, that they have an intro to lap swim and the person there could teach you how to do that. And so I signed up for it. I'm like, it's like $60 or whatever. And I was just so intimidated. I was like, hi, I'm 51 years old and I don't know how to breathe my face in the water. Like you just feel like, why don't I know how to do that? But I also have to remember the only time I ever had formal swimming lessons was in 5th grade. Because back at the time, our school, like the school district I was in, they required everybody pass swimming in 5th grade, to pass 5th grade. So everybody had to go to whatever, I don't know how many levels, but basically at a certain level you had to get to. So I'm thinking, I'm 51, fifth grade, hot minute ago. Like, it's probably understandable why I don't know, how to do it. Because swimming was never fitness for me. Swimming was always play. And so the idea of reframing that swimming could become fitness, like, just took a little bit. And then as I was in the lessons, about 4 lessons in, the coach, her name was Jamie, said, you really should consider joining the BariNation Aquatic Masters team. You hear the word master, I'm like, oh, please. Like, I barely can get my face in the water. And she goes, you're actually really good. You just have things you need to learn. And so I took the leap. And so I've been on the adult swim team club, whatever you want to call it now, for, I think, 3 months. I think I did this in November. And first, I got to say, the technical, like, I got to give a nod in the direction of, like, this is hard. Like, it's more technical than I ever imagined because, again, I scuba dived, I tubed, I water skied, like, there wasn't a sense that, like, form really matters here and it really changes. But one of the things I was really surprised after I kind of got over, like, I don't know how to do all 4 strokes yet. They're keeping me, like, locked in on my freestyle and my backstroke, and then the breaststroke and the butterfly, I will just learn in time. But it was one of the weirdest, it's one of the hardest workouts. It is one of the few types of fitness that is whole body. And then the other thing that was really hard to get my head around was simultaneously I'm working my tail off and I'm also the most relaxed I've ever been. There's something that, like, physiologically, I did some deep diving on this because I wanted to know, like, it literally lowers your blood pressure when you get in the water. Like, so, like, the cardiovascular benefits, all this stuff, but there's something that happens in the water is, like, the noise, the world noise just goes away. For those, like, my practices are 45 minutes. They'll be going up to an hour, here shortly. And there's something about that combination of, I get to work really hard, but I get to work hard safely, and there's something also that my body relaxes, in this process. And like, I love running, lifting weight, all these other kinds of things. But that's not what goes down in those experiences of fitness. And so I think that aspect of it, and part of the argument my surgeon had, is that this is a form of fitness that you can do for the long haul. He goes, there's far more people in the pool in their 70s, 80s, and 90s than there are out running half marathons. Mm-hmm. And he's right? So the other nice thing is, like, you're not going to fall down, because you're already in the water. So, like, the safety behind, being able to push your body, but in such a way that, yes, you can get injuries. There's no question, but you're less prone to, like, twisting an ankle and doing these kinds of things that can sideline you for a long period of time. And what I found so interesting is my lung capacity, even in my running, has grown immensely from my time in the pool. And so I think it's this space of, we all need to be honest. We all we're going to get old, right? And, and injuries can happen, just different things, or old injuries way back in the day, they come haunting many years later. And here's a way that you can still take care of yourself, especially as a bariatric patient. Like, this is a good way to get movement and a safe way to do it. And I also think it's a really fantastic way, like, early post-op too, because you have the safety of the pool. Like, there's water fitness, there's different things you can do that allow you to move your body. And, and yes, I had to get over some of the body image stuff of, like, loose skin and being in a swimsuit and all those things. But, like, once I got in the pool, even that noise went away, and so It's kind of this, it's a battle of, like, acceptance. Like, I knew he was right. And then also the risk of trying something new and saying, like some of the most rewarding things come out of when we take a risk. And I trusted him enough, but I also didn't realize how much I would end up loving what I'm doing. And it was actually really fun. I just saw him this week and he was super happy, with my decision to do that. And just, was really proud of that. And that was a neat thing to be able to say, I listened to you. And then I also took the time learn. And I would say that's the key thing of that bridge is when you're going to try something new, like invest in someone helping you do it right, because I'm way more efficient now and isn't necessarily about always burning calories or this or that or the other, but I actually enjoy it more because I'm gliding through the water a whole lot better because I learned how to breathe right. I'm also learning the different posture and different things you need to have that I just didn't know existed. You think, swimming, and now I'm like deep respect, for what really is involved and how highly skilled it is. But I'm thankful. And I think that that's the part of, I actually can envision like swimming as a primary fitness, especially as I continue to age. And I've always known, since my 20s, that I would need at least my right knee is on a ticking time bomb and needs to be replaced. So I think that's, will you take a risk? Will you invest enough to like learn, have someone teach you, and then, just be willing to give it a try.
That wraps up another empowering episode of the BariNation podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, keep the conversation going by joining the BariNation membership community, where you can attend live support events, access on-demand resources, and find a caring community.
Join us at barination.mn.co. If you found this podcast valuable, help us produce it by becoming a $5 monthly supporter at barinationpodcast.com.
And just remember, at the end of the day, you've got this, we've got you, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.